Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all again, or to have you all here again, or I guess to be seen by you all again. Really happy to have you here for another installment of one of our new initiatives at Black Theatre Workshop, the In Conversation With series. Very happy to have you all here. I am Quincy Armorer, the artistic director of Black Theatre Workshop, and super thrilled to have this next guest who's going to be coming up. But before we get to that, here we are today on Thursday, the 29th of October, a good 7 months into this new world that we're living in. I hope that you and yours are all doing well, or in fact, thriving as best you can. We've been thinking a lot about our public, our patrons who we haven't seen in quite some time. We miss you. We miss you a lot, and we're looking forward to being able to share some of what we've been working on for the past little while with you. I should also just mention that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be announcing the season for Black Theatre Workshop. It's our 50th, as I'm sure many of you know, and it's going to be a little bit of a pared down season, obviously, because we're not able to do what we normally would be doing. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we take some time to celebrate this milestone that we're living in, the 50th anniversary. If you were with me last week, you would have seen that I was in conversation with the wonderful Dr. Clarence Bain, who is one of the founders and current board member of Black Theatre Workshop. Wonderful to have him on and to talk about some of the early days of Black Theatre Workshop, to really reflect back on the rich history and legacy of BTW. And one of the other things that we're going to be doing this year is also making sure that we're looking forward as well to the future and what's going to be in store for BTW for the next 50 years. So please look out for our season announcement coming to you in the next couple of weeks. But for today, I'm super excited to have this conversation. One of my favorite things about this business that we get to work in is the people that I get to meet along the way, especially artists from across the country who wouldn't necessarily be coming together otherwise. And this next guest is one of those people. Her name is Janelle Cooper. Now, Janelle Cooper is a wonderful, talented actress and director and singer and artistic director. She was recently, not too long ago, playing the role of Sofia in the musical The Color Purple, which I'm very disappointed I never got a chance to see, because it sounds like the perfect marriage between actor and role. I first got to meet Janelle just over 5 years ago. We were working together at the National Arts Center. We were part of the last NAC's English Theatre Ensemble for the 2015-2016 season. So we worked together on a couple of shows there: The Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God, that was the NAC and the Centaur Theatre in association with Black Theatre Workshop. And then we also did Twelfth Night together at the NAC with the Old Trout Puppet Theatre in association with them. So much fun. But today I'm happy to have her here because, in addition to all of that, she's also the artistic director of an Afrocentric theater company out west called Ellipsis Tree Collective. And I thought it would be really great to have her on and to be able to share with our audience a little bit more about her career and also the company that she is founder of. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming my guest for today, the wonderful Ms. Janelle Cooper.
Hello.
There she is. Hey, Janelle. Welcome.
Hi.
In Conversation With.
Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, my dear. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I want to just start, as I normally do, with the question, how are you doing?
That is a loaded question.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Right now, in this moment, great, because I'm sharing space with you, and it's been a bit of time. In general, it's I feel like I'm probably sort of coasting along the same plane as most people, full of gratitude some days, and then the next, total despair. It's certainly a challenge not to be able to, our work is not just something that we're in service to, but it's also an outlet for us as artists. That's where we get to place all of our energy. And to not have the spaces to do that in, or the accessibility of opportunities as frequently as we might otherwise is certainly a challenge. It's a negotiation, to say the least. And then, of course, just living in a Black body today is exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much weight to carry around. So much more than, I mean, we've always had to, but in the past few months, especially since May 25th, I think it's been really, really difficult. And when we chatted, just so everybody knows, we had a lovely pre-chat yesterday morning, Janelle and I, which was great. But it's when I'm talking to people, because I'm not a parent, and sometimes I forget about just how much parents have to deal with right now. You've got a wonderful young son, Grayson, who I remember from when we worked together. How old is he now?
9.
9 years old. So how has it been for you, I guess, dealing with everything that we're having to deal with, and then also having to be a mom to a 9-year-old at the same time?
It's completely overwhelming. But I feel like, I've got to be one of the lucky ones. I have an amazing child who is so articulate and independent and creative and gracious, and is constantly reminding me, not just that they are these things, but to embody those things myself when I get frustrated or overwhelmed, or everything, just like the weight of the world seems like it's just like closing in on me from all sides. And also I've just got one child. There are single parents out there with multiple children, and I don't know how they're doing it, But yes, raising my child is probably the easiest part of all of this.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. And how about we'll just send a whole lot of love and support and good vibes to all of the parents out there, to all of the single parents out there, to anybody who's a parental figure, to young people out there. We feel you, and so much love and energy going out to all of you.
Absolutely, so much.
But I love that you mentioned, being here to share space together. I'm really happy to be here and share space with you. It's been a long time. I wish we could be in the room together again.
I know, that would be so nice.
But we had so much fun together at the NAC in the ensemble, which started, of course, with the wonderful The Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God, written and directed by Janelle Sears. And I just wanted to briefly talk about that show for a bit. Just so you all know out there, Janelle was in that show. She was one of the 14-member Ancestor Chorus that received the Meta Award for Outstanding Contribution to Theater. But when I look back on that show, that was such a significant production for me. And I often tell people that, there's Quincy Armorer before the first day of rehearsals for Adventures, and then there's Quincy Armorer afterwards. What was that show and that experience like for you?
Adventures changed everything. Complete game changer, life changer, career changer, everything. First of all, the opportunity to work with Janelle Sears was like a life dream. So check that off of the bucket list. But it was the first time that I felt that I didn't have to apologize for my Blackness. I didn't have to apologize for my Black womanness. I was able to walk into a room and sit down and take up space, and it was okay. There was no fear. There was no compromise. There was no accommodating other people. There was no diminishing my voice. I felt it was home. It was home.
That's a really lovely way to put it. It was home. I agree with you 157,000%. Yeah. Such a great joy. And Janelle Sears, I mean, come on.
I know.
Janelle Sears. We were so lucky. But then also I think it was after we did that production together, you were also involved in a staged reading of The Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God after the fact. Oh, look, there we go. There's a photo of it right there.
So I did that stage reading before our show,
Or
actually.
before?
Yes. I fell in love with Janet Sears probably in my late teens, early 20s, and did a lot of work on her plays throughout university. And Adventures was, of course, something that struck me in a very special place. And I knew that there was going to be some further relationship with that show. How far that relationship was going to go, I had no idea. But when Ellipsis Tree started, it was on the list of things that I wanted to do. But the show is challenging. It's big. It's a large cast.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were just this fledgling company who were just trying to sort of like make our way through the Calgary scene. Had made this big splash with our first production, Ruined, and I couldn't afford to do the full production just yet. So I got a group of actors together and we did a staged reading of the show over the course of, I think, maybe a full weekend at Lunchbox Theatre, downtown Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And then probably 2 years later, at the end of a little festival series that Cheryl Fogo and I co-produced called the Black Canadian Theatre Series, we ended that entire series with a full production of Adventures.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so great. And this is a perfect chance to actually talk a little bit more about Ellipsis Tree Collective, your company that you alluded to. There we go. Because I think, when we're talking about Black theater companies, Afrocentric theater companies, at least for those of us who are in central Canada, obviously our viewers watching here are familiar already with Black Theater Workshop, and many people will know Obsidian Theater. It's based in Toronto. Everybody knows everything in Toronto. But I think that, because of the large geography of Canada, sometimes it's a little bit harder for us to know about some of the companies in the regions that we don't live in or interact with. So
Right.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about Ellipsis Tree Collective, what its mandate is and how it came to be?
Sure, absolutely. So Ellipsis Tree Collective is an Afrocentric theater company that is dedicated to the professional development and production of creative works by BIPOC artists. Ellipsis Tree was established about 10, almost 11 years ago by 5 Black women artists in Calgary who didn't have any work. And the work that we had was work that we were creating ourselves and presenting on small stages. And after a handful of these small stage dressing room conversations about how we wish there was just more for us, we decided that we needed to take the next step and start generating those opportunities on a much grander scale for ourselves. So we started Ellipsis Tree, applied for funding immediately, decided that we wanted to do Ruined, Lynn Nottage's Pulitzer Prize winner. Mm-hmm. When we approached the company for the rights, we're told that we were in competition with a much larger company out in Toronto who was lobbying for the rights as well. Mm-hmm. And we were so married to the idea of doing the show. Like there was absolutely no other option than to do Ruined as our breakout production. And so I was like, okay, well, we can't just get the rights, but how do we traverse this? Who do we go to? And who better to go to than to Miss Nottage herself? And so did a ton of little sneaky internet research, found Lynn's contact info, and we shared some lovely conversations. And she said, let me see what I can do. And we got the rights for the Canadian premiere.
Wow.
In association with that show, we partnered with Calgary Communities Against Sexual Abuse. shared a number of discussions around rape as a weapon of war. We held a large symposium at the Glenbow Museum, downtown Calgary. And the show was it's an incredible show, but the opportunity of that show is really what drew us in. It really does have the power to change and to open one's eyes and to generate dialogue about a thing that has been going on for decades, still to this day, that people don't know enough about. We're not talking about the right things. We're not reaching out to help all the people in need. And we were able to do that with this production and recognize that that is really what Ellipsis Tree needs to stand for. It needs to be about reaching a hand out to the underserved and the people whose voices aren't heard, or they can't be for whatever reason. They can't speak for themselves. And so since then, Ellipsis Tree has had a number of wonderful productions. We presented the world premiere of John Ware Reimagined by Cheryl Fogo, Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God, The Real McCoy by my friend Andrew Moody. Yes. And I'd say in the last 3 years or so, Ellipsis Tree has been on a bit of a hiatus. Okay. Soon after the company started, maybe a year or two into that, my other members had other things that they wanted to focus on, other places that they wanted to direct their creative energy, and they left, and I stayed. And eventually, of course, my career started moving in a bunch of different directions, because there's artistic directing, and there's acting, and there's directing, and there's music. And I left to work with you at the National Arts Center. And of course, running a theater company remotely whilst traveling and working across the country it's not easy. And I tried to do it for a year or so. But even for that time, it wasn't manageable. So I took a little bit of a step back, still have my hands in, little areas throughout the Calgary artistic community. But sort of back now and ready, and Ellipsis Tree is ready to take that next step. We're moving towards incorporation and rebranding, and really trying to establish the company as a thing that at whatever point, if I need to, I can walk away from, and it is this self-sustaining entity.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. And still serve its purpose in our city.
Do you think that, I mean, in the 11, 12 years or so that it's been around now, do you think that, what am I trying to say? Has the company's existence had a lasting effect on the community, the theater community in Calgary as a whole? Have you seen some positive change because your company is now a part of it, and maybe having an effect on how the other companies view our community and the work?
I would think so, yes. And I can say that because that's been relayed to me. Do I think that there have been an overwhelming number of opportunities that have become available to Black or other artists of color? Not necessarily. However, there has been this influx of BIPOC artists that are taking chances on themselves and the work that they want to do, and I'd like to think that Ellipsis Tree is part of that, is part of leading that charge.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. I think it's fantastic. I think we need to have more companies like Ellipsis Tree, and yet companies like yours and ours especially just need to be given the opportunity to have the resources to be able to thrive. I think that there's been a lot of growth and movement in that area, which is really great. But I think we still have so much further to go. But I'm so happy to hear that that there's just a hiatus. Companies like still around taking.
Companies definitely still around,
Wonderful.
and I've been working with Ghost River Theatre for the last few months. They've really taken this sort of mentorship role in the life of Ellipsis Tree, and Eric Rose, our artistic director, in my life personally as a creator. And that's also something that I think is really necessary. Companies like Ellipsis Tree, or new companies, new BIPOC companies coming up, or these ad hoc collectives, need to know that there's mentorship. They need to know that there's support available to them. They need to know that there's somewhere that they can go, even if it's just to ask questions.
Yeah.
And when Ellipsis Tree was starting, man, I cannot tell you how many phone calls I made, how many emails I sent, how many doors I knocked on, how many events I attended, just so I could be sharing space with the people who were moving and shaking and shaping things in Calgary. And I'd say 8 times out of 10, they had no interest. There's interest now. Right. And whether that's self-serving or not, I feel it is really of no consequences. It doesn't matter. I think it's an opportunity that needs to be taken, because we need to establish space for ourselves. We need to establish a platform, and on that platform is where we can bring up our younger brothers and sisters and cousins and give them spaces to stand. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
Oh yes, I hear you. I'm with you 100%, totally, all the way. So I want to just segue a little bit back to you as a performer, because I know very firsthand what you are like on stage. Mm-hmm. I'll let our viewers know that not only did we get to do 12 nights together, but we got to play viola and orsino together. Yeah. Which was so much fun. Yeah. And our viewers, of course, will know that, of course, Lucinda Davis was in that production. Tristan D. Lala was in that production. We were all in the ensemble together with 6 other fantastic artists as well. So the show that I wanted to ask you about is The Color Purple. Mm-hmm. Which you got to do for quite some time. How long were you doing that show for?
We did The Color Purple for, I think altogether, it was maybe 7.5 months.
Wow, nice.
It was almost 8 months between Halifax and Winnipeg.
Brilliant. And you played Sofia.
I did.
Oh, what a role. What was that like?
It was everything. First of all, so much love and shout outs to Kim Ramprasad.
Oh my God.
Yes. Idolize. Yeah, she's amazing. But I got to play Sofia. And it's funny. Before the audition notices came out, I'm not sure how he had the inside scoop, but it doesn't surprise me. Tristan Dalala contacted me and said, and it's a very short message, and said, they're doing The Color Purple. You are Sofia. Get it. Something along those lines. And I was like, oh. And of course, dream role, dream, like up there, like top 2-3 roles.
Yeah.
Not really sure that I could, not really sure that I had the confidence to go after it, because it felt so much bigger than me. And The Color Purple, within recent years, had been getting so much buzz. There was so much buzz about the show on Broadway and the other people that had played Sofia. Mm-hmm. And yes, but I auditioned. I got the role, and embodying that spirit, it was like the guttural wailing of like the Black women that came before me, literally carrying their villages, their people on their backs, never stopping, trudging, clawing through mud and snow. And it was such an honor to take that on, to be entrusted with that.
Yeah.
And when I tell you that character, that spirit ripped my chest cavity open and hasn't left, it's no lie. Sofia lives, she lives in me. Yeah. And I have not been able to close that wound, and I don't want to.
Don't ever.
No, never.
Don't ever.
Never.
All I want right now is just to, I want to hear you sing, because I'm having flashbacks of like the very, very beginning of Adventures.
Oh,
like,
I loved that opening. That was the
very opening.
best. Yes.
Oh, and then and of course,
an MC.
yes, exactly. And I can see you all, I can hear. And that was one of the really fun things, I think. Also, Lucinda and I would talk about this quite a bit when, you know, being able to be in the room with you, and often you guys were working separately and we were doing some scene stuff, and then when things would come together, it was just, Lucinda and I would just look at each other and be like, this talented group of people that we were in, what you guys were doing was just so amazing. And we would get lost. We would get lost in the sound of it. And honestly, I was very disappointed that I didn't get to sing along with you guys as much in the show, because it was just, I could go on. Oh, Adventures. Anyways, you know what? If I ever win the lottery, we're doing that show again. I'm just gonna put that out there. Somebody has to say it. Oh wow. Okay. I wanted to ask you, dear sweet Janelle, because I'm hoping that there are some emerging Black artists out there who are at the beginnings of their careers. As you know, we have a mentorship program as well. So there's a lot of people who have done their formal theater training and have just recently graduated and are launching into the professional world. And as someone who is established in many different disciplines, as you know, we were saying, you're not just a performer, but you also direct, you sing, you run a company, like smorgasbord of everything. If you had just, you know, one or two little nuggets of knowledge or information or guidance or advice or something to share with us, people who might be watching, who are up and coming, what are one or two things that you would want to just, you know, drop for them to take in and resonate?
Don't stop. Because that's too easy. And doing something that you love, that you are wholly passionate about, shouldn't be easy. It should take the blood and the sweat and the tears and all of the other stuff to make it happen. Never, ever, ever stop. Never give up on yourself. Shut your inner editor or, you know, your inner naysayer down and take control of your narrative as an artist, because you won't regret it. The second thing I would say is stop waiting for a seat at the table. You've got tools, you've got materials, pull them out, build your table.
Nice. That's really great. That's actually leading me to maybe one other little question. Just in order for, you know, to make sure that our up and coming BIPOC artists, especially, have the opportunities to be able to thrive and grow. Is there anything in particular that you see that the Canadian theater scene can focus on or do more of or do better right now, given the state that we're in? Now, obviously, we're in a global pandemic, and our industry is changing, or let's say it's evolving, and we're still discovering exactly how we do what we do in this new world that we're living in. But that being said, are there any things that you can think of that our industry and perhaps maybe even some of the companies that don't have a culturally specific mandate or focus can be doing in order to offer opportunity and to provide space for artists who need someone to give them a leg up?
Absolutely. Well, because we can't be in the room, so to speak, right now, there's a lot of creation happening. And I think offering online classes or workshops or auditing opportunities is really valuable for a lot of artists right now. The chance to learn and to grow and to just really develop their expertise. And I think, moving forward for any company right now that doesn't have a culturally specific mandate, they really need to think about creating space, not just on stage, but administratively behind the scenes for BIPOC artists. And, there's this really great initiative in Calgary that Thomas Geddes and Jenna Rogers have started called the 3550. And it's a hiring initiative. So you need to have X number of people on staff, X number of people in administration, X number of people backstage, X number of people on stage, right? And so this is a standard that you should adhere to as a, as like moving towards the direction of being a more inclusive organization.
Right.
And so I think things like that are really valuable as well. There are a lot of artists talking with a lot of wonderful ideas. Host chats, do more things like this, giving more artists like space to represent themselves and their art, helping them build their own platforms, helping to amplify their voices and their work. I think right now that's what needs to happen, so that when we all get back out into whatever that world is going to be, those people have been elevated to a point where they can just literally step out of their doors and they can do the things that they want to do, instead of having to wait for you or me to give them the opportunity to do those things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. Well said, my dear. Oh my goodness, it's so nice to sit and chat with you. I could sit here and chat with you for forever, but of course we're in a finite time. But my dear Janelle, it was such a joy to share this space with you. So many years. It's been like a couple years since we've seen each other. Yeah, it's crazy. And but no, it's so good. But I want to, before we go though, because if people are interested in learning a little bit more about Ellipsis Street Collective and perhaps consider making a donation to Ellipsis Street Collective, where can they do that?
Well, you can go to my Instagram page. There is a link to our GoFundMe fundraiser. My Instagram name is at Janelle the Cooper.
Excellent. And for those, well, I was going to say for those of you who haven't been able to watch it, but they're not watching right now. But this is going to be available on our YouTube channel. So what we'll do, Janelle, is we'll make sure that that information is also available for people to find it there so that they can link to your website. And oh, look at that. Wonderful. Such great team behind the scenes. Thank you, team behind the scenes, for putting that up. Because we definitely need to make sure that that we are supporting companies like Ellipsis Street Collective, that we are supporting artists like Janelle Cooper, because these people, these companies, these voices, as you say, need to be amplified, and BTW is happy to be here to help, spread the word as much as we can. Darling Janelle.
Yay, thank you.
This has been so great, and we're going to stay in touch. And we'll see how BTW and Ellipsis Street Collective could potentially find ways of continuing to collaborate and connect. Because why not?
Yeah, I'd love that.
All right, my dear, and to all of our viewers, thank you for joining today. So happy to have you here. It's so nice to be able to connect with you in this way as we can. I can't wait to be able to be in the room with you again. But until then, thank you for finding us on Facebook and seeing our In Conversation with series. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. And then also don't forget our season announcement is going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So please look out for that. On behalf of the staff and everyone at Black Data Workshop, thank you for watching. Thank you once again, Janelle Cooper. Have a great day, weekend, couple of weeks, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you at our next conversation. Bye-bye.